Hey everyone, it's the interview queen Alicia Atout here, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to my interview with the heavyweight hustle, Calvin Tankman. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. I'm all right. Just been chilling at the house today. No family activities, so.
Very nice. I feel like sometimes the chillest of Thanksgivings can be the best, so.
Got to sleep in, so that's good.
Right. Take days like that as they come. It wasn't until a couple of months ago where promotion started springing back up. We were all kind of allowed to finally get back out there and do our thing. I feel like so many of us were going stir crazy. So how amazing does it feel for you now that you can actually be back at shows and do what you've been waiting to do for months, which is go out there and wrestle?
It feels really good. It's one of those things where, like, as a performer and as a wrestler, like, you get used to doing that 2 or 3 times a weekend. So, like, when that all of a sudden just stops for months on end, it's like I don't have an outlet to, like, express myself or do the things I want to do. So definitely when that came back, it was super exciting. And a lot of the promotions were coming to my hometown in Indianapolis to do shows. So I was getting to be a part of those and really help build my name. And I guess it's one of the crazy things that it took a shutdown. And then when we came back, that's kind of when I started getting most of my buzz, as you say.
Right. Well, we have to talk a little bit about that buzz because it is a very exciting time for you as the world recently watched your MLW debut just last night. So what were kind of your thoughts on everyone's reaction to the debut and how awesome was all of the feedback that you were getting?
Um, First off, uh, this is something that you dream of since I was like 3 years old to finally see yourself on TV. And like the outpouring of support I've gotten is it's crazy to me. When kind of like, I mean, you always start professional wrestling wanting, at least for me, like I wanted to be at the top levels, but like wanting to be there and like things happening are two different things. So like when things kind of start happening, it's really, I don't know, it takes you back. It doesn't, it almost doesn't feel real. It's kind of just different. Doesn't feel how I thought it'd feel, but I'm definitely excited and ready for work for more. I think my favorite part was my daughter getting to see it, and her mom sent me a video of her watching the promo where I dedicated the win to her, and she just got this big grin on her face. So being able to do that is definitely something I'll never forget.
Well, congratulations on joining our MLW family. You had mentioned there how you've been a wrestling fan since you were about 3. So I'd love to know about the actual moment you got the call and it was sealed deal. And they're like, hey, yeah, we are signing you. Just put pen to paper. Because I've heard you talk a little bit about how it's been in fruition for a really long time. But I'd love to know more about the actual moment where it was like, I don't really have to worry. This is what I've wanted and it's happened.
So everything happened, I think it was the end of April, early May. It happened kind of fast and really out of the blue. I talked to like some other places and nothing really was like shaking. So I was just kind of set and ready to do what I had to do and keep working until I got a call. And then out of nowhere, um, I got an email from Court and everybody over at MLW. And he'd said that he'd stumbled across some of my video and he was definitely interested. And then it was really his vote of confidence in me saying, like, I watched you and I believe that you can be something in this business. So I want to invest in you and help you become something. And just that meant the world to me because, like, it's kind of, I mean, as wrestlers, like, yes, we're big, tough guys, but I mean, at the same time, we're always working for the admiration of other people, whether it be the crowd or promoters trying to get a spot. There's always somebody you got to, like, impress or do something to. So to like have almost that weight lifted off and have someone say like, listen, I see you. And it's not a matter of you proving that you're good enough. I know you're good enough. Now it's time to show the rest
Showcase
of the world.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely like something that like meant a lot to me.
That's awesome. And I mean, it had to be kept hush hush for a little bit because of the pandemic. Otherwise, we would have gone straight into tapings and announced you. So did that kind of kill you inside knowing this dream had come true? And you're like, oh my God, I can't even share it yet with anyone.
Yeah. Um, Immediately after we signed everything, he sent me a message and said, don't say a word until we say it. And I was like, oh, that's the worst. So I'm thinking like a couple weeks and then it's June and then July. Actually, Yeah, it was the end of June, early July when they announced, because my first show back was a GCW show in Indianapolis, and I believe that was like 20th. And he announced it within the week after that.
Okay.
So it was just things like waiting from April until the end of June to like finally get to announce, hey, I did something that like I've been wanting to do since I was a child. Like,
right.
Definitely difficult and nervous. Like checking social media every day, like they're gonna announce this finally so I can like say something or.
Well, it's interesting because I've obviously seen you and heard of you from just other shows like the GCW shows. But for me, it was super fun watching you wrestle live when we were all at the restart, because at 355 pounds, you have this crazy brute force, but then this agility that comes out of nowhere. And it's so fun to watch. So a lot of people don't expect when that happens. So do you enjoy bringing that surprise factor to the table, whether getting that crazy reaction from fans or knowing when people watch us on TV now, they're going to think like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. He can do everything.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it, because I watch a lot of like wrestling and you'll see a big guy just lean on their size. And like some of the guys that are big, that were big names, like you have Vader and you have Bam Bam, like they were just as athletic as anybody else on the roster. And they showed that. There's been like very few that really showed any more than they had to do after that. And so like I want to take that. Like I'm competitive, so it's not just like, I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's like I'm competitive. I want to show that like we're just as much of athletes as everyone else is, and there's no reason I can't do these things. So that's kind of like been my motto like my whole life. My mom always told me that. Like, whenever, like, it doesn't matter what size you are, just do what you have to do. So like growing up, I was constantly playing basketball and doing moves to coaches, or not necessarily coaches, but I learned everything. It wasn't just postman moves because I wasn't necessarily the tallest. So I had to learn ball handling. I learned the stuff the little guys did. And so like it was the same thing when I got into amateur wrestling. Like there's the big man style of wrestling, lazy big men. They don't shoot. They try and throw you from the top and throw you on the ground. And so they were like, no, you're athletic enough. Do that, because there's not a lot of heavyweights that are going to be able to do that and do it well. So if you can do it and do it well, you're going to have a step up on the competition. It's the same thing when I trained with MMA. It was one of those things where like if you're sparring with smaller guys and you can keep up and you can get used to a smaller guy's hand speed, then when you fight a heavyweight, they're going to be throwing punches in slow motion. You're going to see them from 10 minutes away or from 10 miles away. So it's kind of like the same. I try and bring that same thing to wrestling. Is I may watch a little guy and I may see a transition or something that they do, and I'm like, well, I'm stronger than them, so I could tweak this way and make this work this way, and kind of like I'm always trying to add and push the envelope a little bit with what I do.
I'm definitely excited to see what else you come up with and what else airs on MLW in the future. And I'm really happy there that you brought up other sports that you play in athleticism, because you really have been playing a bunch of different ones for such a long time, whether basketball, football, mentioned MMA there. So when did you realize you actually wanted to go from all those other sports and categories and really focus on wrestling and just dominate all of the matches that you were a part of?
So I'd probably say, so when I was 3 years old, wrestling was the first thing I wanted to do. I had my family physician ran the like youth football league, and so he saw me because I've always been this size. I've always been big since I was a child. So he saw me, and I would talk about wrestling all the time, and he'd be like, yeah, you want to be a wrestler, but that's unrealistic. Come play football." And so like I didn't really know much about football, and then I'd go home and like me and my dad always watched basketball, but then he started like putting football on so I could watch it. Like, oh, would this be something you want to do? So eventually I started playing football when I got older, and kind of like I still loved wrestling and I still watched wrestling a lot, but like I don't know, football became my main focus because that's what everybody supported me to do, like my family and everybody else. And so like still a huge wrestling fan until like I was middle school, maybe. Kind of stopped watching a little bit. Not really stopped watching. I just stopped watching like every week. I would come in, tune in when I didn't have football practice and see what was going on, see what changed. And then I stumbled across an old Ring of Honor show from way back in the day and saw like Steen and Generico and the Kings of Wrestling and all these guys And so like watching their style of wrestling from what I'd seen on TV, it was more fast paced, it was more hard hitting, and it was like it caught my mind at like 16 or 17. So like it was in my head like maybe I want to do this, but like right now I'm trying to get a college scholarship and go play football. So like I kind of just didn't do that.
It's always kind of pushed to the side a little bit.
Yeah, and so like I found out I didn't have my grades perfect. Was going to go to junior college so I could get my grades up and then transfer. And then I found I was going to be a dad 2 months in. I dropped out and I picked up a little bit of MMA training to stay in shape in college. So I came back and immediately started training for that. And then really what pushed me away from that was I didn't want to commit to the weight cut because I walk around at like the lowest I've walked around since I was like 17 is like 330. So in order for me to cut to fight a heavyweight, that's 265 pounds. So that's
right. That's a significant cut.
35 pounds, yeah. And I didn't want to commit to the weight cut. So I kind of like slowed down on the sports stuff and then like really started watching wrestling again and really like getting into it and like not just watching like what was on TV or Ring of Honor or whatever big company that was on TV, like really starting to delve into like the independent scene and watching some of these other guys that were pushing the envelope. And I was like, I want to do that. Like I know from me being in sports, I have the athleticism to do what they're doing. It's just a matter of finding out a way to do it. And then I met a friend at work and we started like, we moved furniture together and we talked about wrestling all the time. And then I was just like, yo, what if we got trained? And he was like, that would be sick. He's like, but I don't know. We don't know any place. So then we like Googled for like 2 or 3 weeks trying to find the best wrestling schools and like calling places and seeing like, because there wasn't a wrestling school within an hour of us.
Okay.
And so some of them were like 2 or 3 hours away, but they wanted us to come 3 times a week and it just wasn't
It's not realistic.
plausible. Yeah. So we ended up settling a place in Indy about an hour away and the rest is history.
That's so neat to hear those beginnings of you wanting it for so long and just it kind of being pushed to the wayside for all these different reasons. And now look at you here, the heavyweight hustle. And I did kind of want to talk about that name. Is that something that you gave yourself or is that a nickname that's actually given to you by someone? How did that all come about?
It was actually given to me.
Okay.
When I was like green, one of the first people that took me out on the road, he was like trying to figure out like moniker, how to make me like, I don't know, just like giving me advice on the road. And we were like talking about it. He was like, we got to find something that like better identifies with you so that people get what you are and who you are. And then like a week later, he just like messaged me on like Facebook Messenger. He was like, I got it. It's like heavyweight hustle. And at first I was like, I don't know. And then it just like kind of grew on me. And then he's like, just try it and use it. And I used it and then like it just caught on. So
even when we were doing a promo backstage for MLW, I remember saying it, introing you, and I'm like, yeah, it has a cool ring to it. Like, it's pretty, like, this has some, like, heft. It's badass. So I'm glad you stuck with it. It's definitely cool. The last thing I do want to ask you about happens to be music, because on my site, I not only interview wrestlers, but also bodybuilders and musicians. So if you could have one artist write some entrance music for you, which would you just love to see do so?
ooh, that's really difficult.
I know there's so many to choose from.
I don't.
I feel like your brain's being pulled in like 30 different directions.
It is. I think of one person, I'm like, well, maybe this person would do something.
Right.
Ah, I'm gonna say two, and I'm gonna say only because they got bars and they're Indiana dudes. So we're gonna go with if I can get a collab of Mark Battles, who's an Indianapolis guy, and Freddie Gibbs, who's from Gary. Um, I feel like that would be the ultimate like Indiana mixtape. Plus, they go hard and they have incredible incredible bars and then punchlines, the whole nine. Their metaphors, everything. Next level stuff.
Awesome. Well, I really do want to say thank you a ton for hanging out tonight, coming on the show. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of you, not only on MLW Fusion every Wednesday night, but also just at any upcoming tapings that we happen to have. So again, welcome to the family. Thank you a ton for hanging, and hopefully I'll see you soon at some point.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. To everyone watching, this has been Calvin Tankman. Like I mentioned, watch us every Wednesday night on MLW's YouTube channel, 7 p.m. EST, and check out aliciatout.com for more exclusive interviews and features. Bye, everybody.